So this is where I understood I could not take a lot of time to first make notes, then revise notes, then write test. ठीक है, इसका मुझे टाइम नहीं था. तो this is why I came to this thing called brainstorming, and brainstorming is exactly what I'm trying to talk here. So मेरा raw and real का वीडियो आया था, उसमें there was this there were queries about what is brainstorming, what is answer thinking, all that. So that's why we are trying to speak here about brainstorming and answer thinking. Before we go to that, let me tell you, I took 4 attempts exactly because I did not make notes, exactly because I did not revise. So this is a tool that I understood that it helped me, but mine is one case. So you should not blindly follow me saying कि अच्छा ये topper आ गया अचानक से कैसे आ गया, and then he is doing all these things. So no, that is not the case. You should not follow me blindly. There is an established method, एक process होता है. वो होता है कि अब foundation में join किया तो foundation में join करो, notes बनाओ, अच्छे से revise करो. You have Civilsdaily also, you'll have mentors and everybody. They'll give you a proper timetable. Do it like that. That is what always helps. That is what helps the average person. So the average means that is what helps almost everybody. Now, oddities like me will come. People who have different sort of thing. But so these exceptions should not be your model. Okay? But given all of that, I could increase my marks from 385 to 425, and I just wrote 2 tests. One GS2 test and one GS4 test. This is all the tests that I wrote. Baki, every time I was just thinking about writing answers. I used to do daily answer writing, but it's not daily, once in 2 days answer writing. It's not even daily. Once in 2 days answer writing. This is where I actually wrote answers. Okay? This I wrote, and then I wrote 2 tests. This is all that I wrote. Baki time, I used to take up PYQs and I used to think कि कैसे मैं answer करूँ उसको. And so that is what we are trying to do here. Try to think about answers. Now, it seems very कि rosy है, भाई answer question ले लो, think करो answer. No, it doesn't happen like that. And if you sit and think for answers, you will take 40 minutes, 45 minutes thinking about one answer. That is what I also took initially. When I used to think about answers, I also took initially 30 minutes, 40 minutes. But then gradually, as this process continued, as brainstorming happened over the course of these 3 months between prelims and mains, I could get answers much more quicker. Okay. So this is all that we are trying to do here. What is brainstorming, how to think answers, and blah, blah, blah. Now, I'll walk you through the procedure of how I used to do it through solving one question of GS1 here. Okay. So let's go directly to the question. Okay, so I took this question here because I like society very much. So that's why I took this 8th question. Do you think marriage as a sacrament is losing its value in modern India? Again, sorry for my bad throat. I have a really bad throat. Okay. So, okay. So, now answer writing, before answer thinking, again, I need to set the context. Before writing any answer, there needs to be number one, addressing the demand of the question. No matter whatever points you write, if you do not write what is asked for in the question, then you will not get marks. So the first thing is to understand what is asked in the question. Key question की demand क्या है, पूछा क्या है, ये understand करना पड़ेगा. That is the first thing. Second, obviously, there is the IBC, the intro, body, conclusion wala template. Everybody knows about that. That is what people usually follow. It is not mandatory that हर question में IBC होना चाहिए. B तो होना चाहिए, लेकिन I और C में you could improvise. I did not write conclusions for every question. and my introductions were not 2 to 4 lines. Sometimes my introductions were 5 lines. So that depends upon question to question. So this is the second thing that you need to understand. The brainstorming or the content comes in the B part or the body part. I am not here to talk about intro and conclusion. That uske liye we can have another session if you want. But about the body part, the body is where you should address the demand of the question. So first understand the demand of the question. Then in the body, try to address the demand of the question. Now, let's come to GS paper 1, 2023, 8th question. Do you think marriage as a sacrament is losing its value in modern India? Now, sacrament, I don't know what it means. I mean, I know it's something, it might have some meaning like something that's very valuable or something. What is the Hindi for this? Sanstha, Adunik Viva, Sanskar ke roop, something that's sacred. I don't even want to understand the meaning of this, but I just know, I just need to address the question, marriage का relevance, value खो रहा है कि नहीं है, ठीक है? So that is the question. Now, when you think about demand, what all there and usually people say there are 2 types of demands. First is explicit, ki what is asked in the question. Second is implicit. Implicit means it is not asked in the question, but either you might be expected to write about it, or सारे टॉपर नहीं, मतलब सारे जो भी लिख रहा है, everybody would be writing, so you should also write about it, and these things will not be asked in the question directly. Now, tell me what is the explicit demand of the question. Do you think marriage as a sacrament is losing its value in India? What is the explicit demand?
Marriage and modern.
No. The question is very straightforward. It is asking, is marriage losing its value? So the explicit demand is take a side or take both sides. Say yes, say no. It is losing its value, and all comprehensive, make it comprehensive. It is not losing its value. Now implicit, for implicit you could come up with whatever you feel like. You could say how to make the institution of marriage more stronger in India. Whatever, that is up to you. This is discretion. ये implicit जो चीज़ आपको लिखना है वो आपके पर्सनालिटी पे डिपेंड करता है, वो आपके खुद के आंसर पे डिपेंड करता है, ठीक है? So now we are again not going to talk about the implicit things. We are just going to talk about the explicit demand of this question. So now I have to think about marriage losing its value in modern India. How I divide this question is, when I am brainstorming, I do not write it down. I usually scribble it down. Scribble something like it. मतलब I don't write the whole question. I just write ऐसे एक छोटे इतना पेज में, I just jot down points. That's what we do. So now how I think is, when I think about marriage, I understand that marriage could be broken down into a lot of different things. So you would know about pestle approach. So now pestle approach, क्या है pestle approach? Political, social, economical, technological, legal. So that is one template. Or you could, whatever, you call it by any name. Framework, yes, framework. So you take whatever framework you want, and then you try to think points based off those framework. That is essentially what brainstorming is. But the problem is, oftentimes everybody, this khisa pita hua hai framework, pestle approach. So now think about other frameworks or other templates that you would use. Now, here, the most easiest template you could use is syllabus. Syllabus ke accordingly think karo, like from first GS1, what all are there? Ancient India, art and culture, not ancient India, but art and culture, geography, society. Okay, In society, there's women, there's urbanization, industrialization, elderly, vulnerable section, blah, 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 blah. Now, so again, choosing a template or a framework is not absolute. ऐसे नहीं है कि मुझे syllabus का करना है तो A to Z all the syllabus I will think and then try to get the points. Whatever strikes me, I will take that part of the syllabus. It will come to my mind कि अच्छा ये women and marriage उसमें से कुछ मैं derive कर सकता हूँ to answer this. And then similarly urbanization and marriage उसमें से I could connect something and come up with a point to write the answer. Now, okay, we have very few people here, but again, tell me something that would address the demand of the question that connects women which is part of GS1 society with marriage. Some point, I want a point, a concrete point, which is connected with women and marriage and which can address the demand of this question.
Take my name is identity.
Okay, that's
Child
good.
marriage. Dowry. Let's check that we wrote the data. First, human communication.
Women are participating more in the mainstream society, so the sense of dominance felt by men has bridged out. So women are also taking.
All of these are good points. The problem in mains is you don't have as much space to write all of this. So that's where keywords come into picture. Okay. Keywords are things that encapsulate a big idea in a very small space. So first point that I got when I was reading this question right now, obviously I don't remember what I wrote in my paper. Some things I remember, I'll tell you here also. So women and marriage. Do you think women, marriage as a sacrament is losing its value in modern India? So women, we could think about women, again somebody said empowerment, so women getting more education. And when women are getting more education, there are some studies that say that divorce rates are going up because there is financial independence and there is no need for women to depend on men and or the traditional institution of marriage. So this is the point. This is what comes in my head. Where my skill comes in is to bring it short, make it short and write it. So I will say, do you think marriage as a sacrament is losing its value in India? In the answer, in the body, I would say yes. I would make two main things. First is yes, second is no. Then in the yes, I would say some 4 points. In the no, I would say some 3 points. In the yes part, now that I've thought about women and marriage, I would say yes, marriage is sacrament because education, I would not even write the full thing. Education means higher independence, it means higher rate of divorce, which means marriage, the value of marriage is going down. So that is one point that I would write. Okay. Now, another thing that you could write is somebody said about children. So, again, women is one part of the GS1 syllabus. Another part of the GS1 syllabus you could think on is children. Okay. So, children there is something called, again, I know this because I studied anthropology, is my optional, something called philiocentrism. Philiocentrism essentially means child-centered family. So when I say children and then marriage, okay, philiocentrism means marriages are concerned around children. So maybe people are getting married to look after children. Now, if that is the case, then I could say that marriage as a sacrament is not losing its value. So I could use that point here. So it is like this. It's a very cluttered sort of thinking that happens. And when I say this to you, it takes me so many words. Bahut time lag raha hai. But then I'm not writing this. I practice this in a scribbling sort of way. Over the course of time, I develop a speed. Now I have developed, I know one, first, imagine this is the first question that I'm brainstorming. I came upon this point of heliocentrism. Imagine 1 month down the line, I am brainstorming another question. Heliocentrism would come automatically to me because I thought about it earlier. So that is the import or merit of brainstorming. It is a compounding thing. एक तुम इधर से कुछ किया, उसका benefit उधर नहीं मिलेगा. मतलब after a lot of time, after you've gone through multiple questions, thoughts will come just like this. It's very difficult for me to think a lot of points right now because the last time I brainstormed was in September 2023. It's been what, I know, 6-7 months now. So first time you brainstorm, it will get you some 30 minutes will happen, but then over time, the time will come down. So heliocentrism could be written as a point to understand how to show that marriage is as a sacrament is not losing its way. Now, I'll tell you another point. So now we've come across women in GS1, we've come across children in GS1. We could come across another point in GS1, or maybe let's go to, again, it's in GS1, it's also in GS3, which is water. So I read from somewhere, there is this concept called water wives. Have anybody heard about this? Water wives. Water wives essentially means that people marry, so the males in that village marry more women so that they could go fetch water. These are villages where there is not enough water. So they would marry more women so that they could go and fetch water. So this is something that I read from somewhere. And this is a point that I wrote in my GS1 as well. So now water wives. So I could write, when I connect water, which is a syllabus point, with marriage, I got the point water wives. I could write it in here or here. You could anywhere. So I'll say, people are, marriage is still important, or a marriage is still important because in some parts of this area, maybe Madhya Pradesh or Maharashtra, I don't remember, people marry just for fetching water. So now this is a point that nobody else will write because nobody knows about it. I have not recalled this point here. I did not remember this point. I generated that point when I thought about it in this structured way. So this is the best thing about brainstorming. Yeah.
Should we directly write yes or no to this type of questions? I mean, yes.
That is up to you. I used to write yes or no. So it is an opinion-based question. Do you think? So you could write yes, it is losing its value.
Then writing its points.
You could just write that. Or you could say, no, it's not losing its value, and then write its points.
These kind of questions should we write introduction part?
It's always good to write introduction.
What kind of introduction we can use?
We'll talk about introduction later. No, that's not very good.
But do you recommend being direct? Would you not build up the initial part and then come to yes or no instead of like just going with a yes at the start? It might appear to the examiner that there's nothing wrong as such technically, but it's always better to like build the thing up and then come to yes or no. If at all you want to take a binary stand, or you can say that the nature is changing. Like for such questions, the best practice, again, your comments, right? Because you have scored, you would know your latest catching. But in way to like, the nature is, it's not a binary, nature is changing of marriages. They're not losing. No बोलना भी गलत होगा, yes. तो वही एक टाइम exchange जो है couples thing on that, the brainstorming that happens. So more on this.
Okay. So in society questions, I usually think that there is both sides of the coin. So at the one point, I do think that marriage is losing its value. There are other points as well here. Globalization. Let's talk about globalization. Another point in GS1. Sorry. So because of global values, again, people are being more independent. Marriage is losing its value. But again, marriage is not losing its value. recently there is this cultural renaissance or resurgence happening within India. So marriage is not losing its value. So in society questions, my de facto approach would be to think that yes, there is a yes, there is also a no. My whole intention is to bring points so that I show both the parts, because it's a very subjective question. Now somebody else could just say no, marriage is not losing, and all points could be written about yes, marriage is losing, or no, marriage is not losing. But my approach to society questions usually is that they are subjective. It's not a one-sided thing. So I would definitely write both parts. भले ही मतलब no में I would not have that many points, so I might just write 2 points. In yes, I might have 6 points. But then see again, I would not write no first and then yes, or I would not maybe divide the entire book list, first writing yes and then no and then filling it. It is an organic process, but then it happens once I've done a lot of brainstorming. Then I know, okay, the points come quickly then, and then I know, okay, I have at least 2 points to write for no, so it is not going to cost me if I write yes and no. So I will definitely write both. But in the end, like sir, you correctly said, in the end, I would not take a yes or a no stand. I might take a very a balanced or a nuanced stand. I might say marriage as a sacrament appears to lose value, but marriage as an institution is evolving in India, and thus its value is still holding, right? Its value is still important, or its value is still holding its ground. Correct. So that would be my conclusion. So again, that conclusion, again, intro and conclusion has to be thought about in different ways. That is not the body sort of thing. So uske I think, a different thing needs to be done. But so here the conclusion is not something that the examiner has asked me. The examiner has not asked me कि marriage change हो रहा है, नहीं. But I, based on my discretion, based on that is, I think, what analytical ability is, and that is what people, examiners are checking in the paper कि आप analysis कर रहे हो कि नहीं. So yes, I say, I address the demand of the question. That's most important. फिर उसके बाद ही चलना है analysis में, पहले से analysis नहीं करना. So in the end, I would write something that's not directly asked. I would write an implicit part that is not directly asked in the question as a conclusion or as an extra part. Okay. So these are some things I could give you. Could you think about any points? Again, open to everybody, even. Could you think about any point? Take any point in the syllabus, and could you generate a point? I'm not asking you to recall a point. Generate a point by dividing this, or by taking one syllabus point, any syllabus point, not just GS1, maybe GS2, then connecting it to marriage, and then getting a point. Could you do that?
Family court like strengthening the other yes or no के साथ कर दिया. Like third point में could separate maximum number जिसके उसके according वो चलेगा कि भी उसके according होएगा कि family court के साथ वो proceeding ताकि dispute केवल family के अंदर dispute solve हो rather than going to the divorce cases.
Okay. So I could understand one thing that from what you said, which is court, or so I would urge you guys to think about some point from polity. In polity again, divide polity. Polity could be divided into judiciary, legislation, courts. So whatever. And
empowerment through SAG, other women also come to know about problems, so they can.
Correct. Okay, so how is it connected to marriage? That's my question.
One woman is domestically the problem because she's on violence and she can tell others, and others can empower to file a case or something like that, or go for divorce.
But then that is not connected to marriage. No, I am asking about marriage.
Because evolution of feminism in four stages in 19th century.
That is not relevant here.
Modern India, we can connect it.
How is my question?
We can connect fundamental rights with the marriage, like right against exploitation.
Okay. Okay. Now, how is it going to influence marriage, or how is marriage losing its value or not losing its value because of that? That is my question.
Marriage is losing its value because many of the cases women are being exploited due to some very various reasons like
Mhm.
okay, and like due to the patriarchal.
Okay, so maybe you could say because of legislations, and then you give some legislations, or because of judgments, Supreme Court judgments, and then you give some judgments because of certain things like this. So let's say Dowry Prohibition Act or Prevention of there is a Domestic Violence Act, DV Act 2005. So because of that act, many men are not ready to get into marriage. That could be one point, which is again a point that you generated right now. It's not a point that you remember. I don't remember that point. So that is one type of way in which you could generate a point by thinking structurally. Again, better points would come if I had revised my notes, but because I've not revised my notes.
Decriminalization of adultery, Joseph and versus Union of India.
हाँ.
So that is मतलब नेगेटिव पॉइंट आ जाएगा. Decriminalization हो गया adultery का.
हाँ, okay, that is correct. Okay, so that is okay. Joseph Shine case, and then adultery is being decriminalized. So now people have the option to engage in open relationships. So marriage is losing its value. Yes, correct. So then marriage is losing its value. That's a very good point. Again, nobody will write that point because it's very difficult to actually think and recall that exact point. But when you think in this way, you could generate a very diverse point. Okay? So this is what brainstorming essentially is. And again, see, there is a difference in brainstorming and content recall. Let me just tell about that as well. There are two ways to approach an answer. The first way is you see this and then you recall, you remember all the things that you've studied. So you just recall Shaira Bano case. Because you know it has something to do with marriage and it is a polity thing, you could write it here. It is a judgment, so it's a value-added point, so you could write it here. That is not how you should approach an answer according to this whole method. That is a recall thing. It's a very difficult process for me to recall because I don't have like that good of a memory or that much time. So
Marriage is also strengthening, like under Article 22 is strengthening the institution of marriage. You can choose around
Article 22.
Right to marriage, Article 22.
Okay. ठीक है. I don't know. So let me just come back to what you're saying. So the first way is to recall all the points that you've studied. Maybe you would have made a note about marriage. Usme you would have written 50 different points. Now you're trying to recall all the 50 different points, or maybe 10 points from that note and write. That takes a lot of time. I could not do that because I did not have notes. That is, again, necessity is the mother of all inventions. I had the necessity to do something like this because I did not have notes. If you have notes, then recall, by all means, recall from the notes.
Sir, I have one question. As you see, question number 3, that is asking us to bring out the socio-economic effects of introduction of railways. Although we read railways in GS paper 3 and infrastructure. So how do I bring out that one which is related to the socio-economic impact of railways in paper? At that point, how would I have to brainstorm on it? Because I have like read, okay, the railways and how it works, like it reduces the freight fare and everything.
Okay.
So how I would like to answer this question, the railways, how it will be the same social religious thing.
Okay.
Because it was in news although. So
Okay. Yes, I will just come to that.
Yes.
Let me finish this first. So first thing is, I was not trying to recall answers. I was trying to generate points, and there is a difference. Brainstorming templates is a way not to write answers, but to generate points. It is to get those points. Okay? That is different. Okay. Now we'll come to the third question. Socio-economic effects of introduction of railways in different countries of the world. Railways is a GS3, I understand. But the question is different countries of the world. I personally feel this question is coming from little bit from world history, because yes, paper 1, so it might have something related to world history. Second, it is also having some socio-economic effects, so it might have something with society. So this is the way in which you should write the answer. Now, again, when I write about this, I could think socio and economic. So in society, again, divide society into 3, divide economy into 3 or 4, then try to get whatever. Okay? So in society, let's say women, again, GS1 mein, society mein, one part is women. So how women and women, or bring me any point related to women that is connected with railways. I could think about mobility, right? So mobility of women increased because railways had come up, especially suburban railways or Mumbai, the whatever. So mobility has increased. That is one point that I could write just like that, because I thought about women and railways. Similarly, in economy, I think about any point, let's say economy. Economy, there are a lot of things, land, labor, capital, etc., etc. There are different ways to think about economy as well. We've just thought about society. So in economy, there is one thing about entrepreneurship. So maybe I could think about how railways helps in trade. I could think about entrepreneurship, how small scale self-owned enterprises or small scale businessmen use trains to travel between cities, increase trade. So that's how, and then that will help in the economy. So that is one way. You could think about other ways of trade as well. Okay.
One district, one product.
One district, one product, whatever. So points like this could be generated. Again, I do not remember this point right now, but points could be generated when you differentiate different things like this and take it. So this is all that I wanted to talk about brainstorming. I don't know how.
Can we write like GS3 or GS4 at 8 points and GS2 at 8 points into GS1?
So this is why I wanted to show you my notes.
This is massively impressive one. Actually, I'm blown away by the fact that you are not depending on recall, but आपने ऐसा process बना रखा है, you can counter that. मुझे कुछ याद नहीं आया तो panic नहीं जा रहे हो, ये question बाद में attempt करना, ये सब कुछ नहीं, वहीं पे the question comes in, and you train your brain in such a manner. By the way, points are not easy to like.
Yeah.
Oh, you have to train that. But that training is already
So
there.
I think that is the thing, because like I said, initially it took me 30 minutes to brainstorm one question. But now if you give me another question now, I will brainstorm it in much lesser time. Because all the points that I accumulated from the first question, I could use in the last question. Also, it's muscle memory. I do one thing. Let's say we have not done GS3 here, but in GS3, any question I brainstorm, what I do is I try to forcefully bring some committee I've made a note upon in that answer. That committee I would use everywhere there, because once I've used that committee there, again I made little bit more detailed notes on every committee. So that committee I could use in multiple other questions. So it's a cumulative thing. It's a very slow process initially, and it's a very difficult process. I did not want to do this. Again, it is one of my senior. He is not preparing anymore, but he was the first person to have introduced me to this whole process of brainstorming. He told me that initially it would be very difficult, and I understand. And I am telling everybody that it's very difficult, because thinking is the most difficult thing to do. It is very energy expensive. Writing is very easy, because likhte raho, and then you feel a sense of accomplishment ki I have written, I have finished this many pens, this much papers. But no, in my case, it is a very fake sense of satisfaction. So thinking was a very difficult thing to do. It took a lot of time, but gradually the time came down. Okay, again, two toppers that I wanted to name here. One is Gaurav Agarwal. So Gaurav Agarwal is the first person, AR1 2013. He was the first person to have shown this pestle approach and everything to generate points. Second is 2021, I think, Pratyush Pandey, AR21. He also he has written a very big, blog in his website. So he also has said about the same thing. I've taken these pointers that they said. I try to, then what I have done is the process. I've tried to do the process of answer thinking, brainstorming over the course of this 3 months to generate points. Baki, the idea is not novel. It's not a novel thing. Everybody else is also doing it. But they are also writing more tests. I did not have that much time to write tests. So I cut down on tests, but it did help me. That's
Sir, but with writing so, very less text, how did you manage to complete the paper within estimate?
okay. So this was my second mains, like I told. In my first mains, like thoda garam pani. This garam. In my first mains, I wrote about 10 tests. In my second mains, I wrote 2 tests. Also, I was writing once in 2 days answer writing. So when that happened, I used to time myself. I used to time 7 minutes. I used to time 10 minutes. 7 minutes for 10 markers, 10 minutes for 15 markers. How much time is it coming up to? 170 minutes. I still have what? 10 minutes. So 10 minutes is my buffer. Any question I exceed, I adjust like that. So I practice this in my daily answer writing and everything. And it came to a point where even if I did not write that many tests, I could adjust my time in such a way that I could write it in 7 minutes or 10 minutes. Okay. So then I realized it is not, my focus should not be to write more tests because everybody else is also writing it. My focus is because I could finish the paper, because I could do the 7 minute, 10 minute thing, my focus should be to bring up more points. And that's why I did more brainstorming and less answer writing. But, and again, it's a caveat that everybody must listen to, if anybody is listening to the video. The caveat is, I am not saying that you should not write answers. You should definitely write answers. Definitely write means, a test series, follow 1 or 2, whatever. Do it. But do it in such a way that it adds to your strength, it is based on your weakness, and that you could finish the paper, and that you could add diagrams, you could add maps. For me personally, adding maps was not a difficult thing to do. Adding diagrams, came naturally. This yes or no thing, or, presentations. I used to present like this. Sometimes I used to present like this. So presentation also not a very big difficult thing for me. Timing was not a difficult thing for me because I used this 170-minute thing. So then the thing that I wanted was to bring points. But if you have problems with timing, if you have problems with presentation, if you have problems with answer writing itself, then by all means do answer writing. I'm not saying that you should not do answer writing. But if that is set, if that is all right, फिर क्या होता है कि be honest with yourself कि writing more answers will not clear. A lot of people, hard-working people, writes hundreds of answers, don't clear. So then be honest with yourself. It's not about writing more answers. It's about addressing the demand of the question, bringing in diverse points. Okay.
So how did you brainstorm on philosophical essay topics?
Same way. Pestle approach will not work. So then I made a different template altogether. So I did not write the template down, but then it had all the different things that I collected from different places. So difference between essay brainstorming and GS brainstorming is, in essay brainstorming, you first brainstorm, bring points, then write. Here, you don't have time for that. Brainstorming happens, writing happens. I've said this somewhere else also. Hand is an appendage. Hand is a tool to just write what the brain comes up with. So this happens automatically. Now for essay, I made a whole different template. Like I had things from literature. So literature, philosophy, then Indian national movement, world history, again syllabus, the entire syllabus. From the entire syllabus, if I could connect something with the essay, I would bring it. So again, this template itself, again, I don't have that template with me right now because I've not saved it anywhere, but it's in my head. It has a lot of things like this: literature, books, philosophy. What else? Let me see my note. Movies, poems, mythology. Okay, so again, this is my notes. These are all the notes that I've made. If I've not made a note, then I have used somebody else's notes. So I have used a friend's notes for internal security and IR. Baki, this is all the notes that I made. Okay. So now I know, could see here in GS1 there is communalism, secularism, globalization, population, caste, women, regionalism, poverty. These are the important pointers, PYQs or slash syllabus points that I could gather. So how I used to make notes is, I used to just write water because water is it is in GS1. So I used to just write water, and whatever point I think is good to put in the paper, I would just write it. That is all my notes. This is my notes. The utility is, this is multi-usable. I just write this. Okay, this is a data point, so you don't think about the first point is a data point. But second point, you think about second point, end user linkages. Mangaluru City Corporation wastewater management plans with end user linkages. That is all that I've written here. So this means any question on water comes, maybe I could write it as a way forward. Maybe I could write it as within the body. But for water, wastewater, this is a keyword that I could use. So as a way forward or as a solution, I could say that in urban water management, bring end user linkages like what Mangaluru is doing. That is the whole thing. So now I told you about water. This point could be used in water. This also could be used in urbanization, urban waste management. This also could be used in GS2 polity. Where in polity? It could be used in LSG, local self-governance. In local self-governance, there is not just panchayat, there is also municipalities. So now, when any question comes about efficiency of LSG, write about a best practice that happens in Mangalore, where what is happening? End user linkages of water happens. So this is how I used to, make notes. So that is one point. So all the other points here, you could say needs for sponge cities. Sponge cities is a keyword. Any question comes on urban waste management, any question comes on water, any question comes on environment, any question comes on flood, I could use this. So my notes are not, even though I have organized it in GS 1, 2, 3, it is not compartmentalized. I am not saying that, okay, ye tum idhar GS1 ke liye likha, I could not use it GS3. I went through all of these things. Whichever I could use it GS4, GS3, wherever I wanted to use, I would use these notes. And you could see that these are not the typical what are the data, blah, 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 etc. This is just value-added things that I found from somewhere. But these value-added things, I would use it in all the papers whenever the point came to mind. Okay. So, let's say, now let me reverse engineer something and then show you. Let's say a question has come on urban flood or flood generally. When that question comes on flood, I would definitely divide flood. One of the areas, one of the ways in which I will divide is urban floods. In urban floods, I have read somewhere about blue infra areas in my notes itself. So because I've read about blue infra areas, that will be my point connecting urbanization and flood. So this is how the entire picture works. I connect 2 points, two diverse things based on the question, demand of the question. Then I get points that I've already made in my notes. Many points I have not made in the notes itself. Those points also I will get when I connect. Like what is that point? We just few moments before we talked about what point. We talked about some point, no, about women and marriage. What some point I said is a very good point. Domestic violence or something. I, no, not waterways. Hmm? I forgot. But again, so even diverse points like those, I would not. The point of this whole thing was some points I've not written in the notes itself, but those points also will come when I think in that way. But my intention when I'm brainstorming is to bring in these points because this is my notes. The other extra points I will definitely get later on. But if these points could be brought in, then that is the best. So now I'll show you, I've made a whole thing about committees. So this, I painstakingly made this after spending half a day just for committees. And this is all the different committees. So now, when I'm writing about water, if I've written about, or if I've brainstormed about water once, and I would search actively when I'm brainstorming, is there a committee that I could write? And definitely there would be either a Mirsha committee or a Madhav Chitale committee that would come to my mind. Once I've used it once, then everywhere else I could also use it. Okay. So this is how I made notes and how this notes connected with the whole brainstorming thing and how this whole thing worked. So I think this is what I wanted to tell you guys about brainstorming. Sorry for my bad throat. Is that it?
Thank you so much,
Okay.
Benjo.
Thank you so much.
For the
Thank you so much.
amazing session. I think
Is it required like we should mention committee names, examples, and articles, and different kind of diversions in every set of answer.
In every set of
Answer.
answer?
Is it required to mention like committee names? And
No. Some questions, if there is a possibility to mention a committee, mention a committee.
anywhere in any
GS3.
Definitely in GS3. In GS2, no. In GS1, not that much. But again, in women,
we can mention, right? Like you were saying that there is a Chitale committee in water. So if there is any question which is coming in GS1 related to water, so you can mention, right?
definitely, no problem. I collected everything from newspaper. All of these things are from editorials. All of the sponge city, blue water, blue infra area, all of these are not from any notes cutting. If I come across something like that in a notes, I will definitely add. But mostly, this is from editorial pages. Editorials may very expert people write this. So they would give all these keywords. I just copied them.
You have made a topic one. So whenever any article or water comes, you expect it to come and you write down there, and over the time it gets read.
It is not, maybe the article itself is not on water. Maybe it's on urbanization. But there is some good point that I think I could write in water. I would write it down in.
Over a period of time, it has refined into
It happened between prelims and mains, mainly between prelims and mains.
just 3 months.
In 3 months when I was reading the paper. Again, so bulk of the content happened here. Some of it also happened in my previous mains.
So you were reading the newspaper following the entire.
Between prelims and mains. I did not read the newspaper before prelims. I read it after prelims.
And the newspapers which were coming on the pre-mains, you were reading on like the entire current affairs.
Only
Entire
between prelims and mains. And then after mains for interview.
So you got all
Before prelims, I just refer to monthly magazines or things like that.
So whatever the committee names and
Committee names I made, like I said, I spent half a day just researching on committees. There are a lot of websites that have committees. So I researched every committee and I made a note. I will share, I have a Telegram channel, I forgot to mention it here.
For how long do you brainstorm answers every day?
That is my main thing. So, no. Between prelims and mains, prelims results came on June 16th or something. I did optional till August 15th or something, or by till that time. Optional and ethics, only that. Only after that, about 20 days, I used to do this. Baki, I was writing once in 2 days, daily answer writing. That I was doing.
4 to 5 answers.
No, 1 to 2 answers.
So you did not brainstorm answers 20, 15 times, right?
Brainstorming, okay, see, when I was writing the daily answer, I was brainstorming, obviously. But I had, see, again, this is, it worked for me like this. For you, you might have to brainstorm the entire this thing, but whatever works for you.
1 to 2 hours.
What I did was, because I had so much optional and so much ethics to cover, that took up 80 to 90% of my day. The rest 10% of my day I devoted to GS, and I devoted it like this. So because I just had 10% of my time, I could not write test also. Not very smart. Just I didn't know anything else to do.
sir, you covered the current affair magazines throughout the year or just only for the while?
I did not current affair magazines means I did not do the monthly thing. Now, if I say things, people will take me differently. But then in 2023, my interview was over on April 26th. Next prelims was on May 28th. First 20 days after my prelims, I did not find the peace to sit down and study. So I just had 10-15 days to prepare for prelims. Naturally, I could not do any current affairs. So in 2023, I did not prepare any current affairs for prelims. In 2022, I did daily. Every day, I would go to Civilsdaily is another website, which Civilsdaily, they do the daily current affairs thing. Every day, I would go to the Civilsdaily website. There is also inside side. There are all different websites, different institutes. Go to their website, read that, make a note of it, revise that.
And in between prelims and mains when you were preparing for
In between prelims and mains, I used to read newspaper.
and for the entire year current affairs what?
No, I did not do.
So, I mean that is also value addition.
If you want to do that, you do that. I did not do that. I did not do mains 365. No. If some current affairs felt important for me, I would do it. GS3 there was a question, Competition Commission of India. Everybody would say that is a current affairs question. I did not prepare on it. That is me.
Your second back-to-back interview. So last time when you could not make the final list, you had just 10 days to prepare. Because you would know final list and prelims, the gap was 10 or 15 days. Hard. So
No, final list, 5 days.
5 days. 22 it came, 27 was prelims.
And I did not even have time to sit and grieve.
But look at his spirit. He wrote again and he made it. And he's in top 60, which is 80. Thank you, Benjo. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.